And Alex, you got the third question?
I do have the third question. So this question comes from Malika Dresser, who asks, do you guys think Nintendo will release another Splatoon-like shooter, Splatoon, on NX? If not, will they at least try to follow up game-wise on the success of Splatoon? So, I think Nintendo will probably bring Splatoon in some fashion over to NX. Whether that means a sequel, or an expansion, or just a port, I don't know. However, we do know that there are unused Octoling playable character assets, and that would be a really great basis for a sequel. I would love to see them expand on the story of Splatoon, maybe show it from the other perspective of the Octolings, because there is that sort of dark genocidal undertone of the story that I'd love to see explored from the other perspective. But not only that, I think that the Octolings are really great characters who didn't really get their full time to shine in the original Splatoon, so I'd love to see them do more with that. But nice. Beyond that, we've been seeing lately, and this is a trend that goes a little bit beyond Nintendo, or a lot beyond Nintendo actually, where the most successful games nowadays are no longer games that are heavy single player, at least not this generation. They tend to be games that are very games as a service, which means, games that are mostly online heavy. Maybe they don't even have a single player mode at all. And I think Splatoon is one of Nintendo's potential answers to that trend. It's a game that lives almost completely online. There's a small offline component. So it lets them have their big online game, but it also fits perfectly with that sort of trend away from games that are heavy single player and toward games that kind of evolve over time and live mostly online. So I think for that reason alone, they will keep the Splatoon train going. And I do think they'll release more games in that vein as well.
Yeah, and beyond that, I think Splatoon is also just too successful to ignore.
For sure.
It's clear that they want to hammer home Splatoon as one of their biggest franchises, and I think that they are going to be working on this port of Splatoon to NX. I don't think they'll be doing a sequel until later on, for essentially the same reasons as we've been talking about with ports of Zelda, why they might be porting Smash Bros. Essentially, just that the Wii U did not really get a fair shot at life, or maybe it did, and it was terrible and it deserves the ill success it's got. There are people who argue both, but my point is that Splatoon itself did not really get quite as fair a shot at life on Wii U, rather, I guess, than the console itself. And so that they would want to be bringing that to NX as soon as possible, as easily as possible, and letting the game shine there as well. And that they will later focus their efforts on making a sequel and making a game that goes beyond what they've already done. Right now, I think they'll want to be pushing that Splatoon as a service to NX as soon as they can, and then hit a home run later down the road when they've thought of really creative, fantastic ideas to really expand Splatoon itself, rather than try to follow up with a 1-2 punch, just something like 2 or 3 years later from the original release.
Yeah.
Well, my incredibly deep analysis of this is that I agree with you guys.
All right.
Now,
contribution.
For your second question, you kind of asked about following up game-wise on the success of Splatoon, and there's another way you can interpret that, and that is, do they give the Nintendo Garage program more shots, bigger shots at making new Nintendo IP? And I think the answer...
I sure hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I certainly hope the answer is yes. I also think the answer is yes. One question I have, though, is... And I kind of talked about this a little already, but one of the nice things about creating new IP is that it comes with new characters, it comes with new universes, and Nintendo hasn't really had a homegrown inside their internal EAD development studios. I guess it's now EPD. They haven't really grown a lot of franchises like that lately, and I would love to see them grow a new single-player franchise. But at the same time, they have this problem where they really need to respond to this demand for online games as a service, and they're sort of running out of franchises where they can just kind of easily drop an online component on top of the existing franchise. So
Animal Crossing. I think that would work great as
Animal Crossing is already they could go further, I guess.
Yeah, I think but that's a whole other discussion.
Animal Crossing is a good one. And Animal Crossing is made by the team that made Splatoon, so that's another kind of point in that But I think as far as new IP, they're in a better position to make the most of those IP if they release more online focused new IP. So I don't know, there's a tension there where I really want them to make more single player new IP, but then they really should make more online new IP.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what would be best. I don't know what I'd end up liking best.
Hello everybody, thank you for listening to this Nintendo Week Clip NWC. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more highlights and discussion videos from Nintendo Week Podcast, or subscribe to us on iTunes for weekly breakdowns of all your Nintendo news, discussion segments on subjects, games, and more, and tons of other features. Thanks for listening, and we will see you tomorrow with another NWC.